we remember an incident in Azari. A group of terrorists, the Boko Haram then, had invaded Azari. They were shooting in an attempt to kidnap, and the community chased them. They killed some members of the community, but the community members killed all of them. The last guy, Khalid, climbed onto a tree and was fired. The community stood. They were resilient and they killed Khalid. Since that day, there has not been one terrorist attack in Azari. As a matter of fact, the former head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, said, and I quote, "If we want to stop or curb this terrorism, we should emulate the Azari example." Tafawa Balewa also happened to be a local government in Bauchi that was always in flames. And the people of Bogoro and some part of Tafawa Balewa, where the Sayawas are, rose up on one occasion. They knew their terrain better, climbed onto trees and mountains when the invaders came. They did not only repel them, they seized their weapons. And since then, you can attest to it that you hardly hear about Tafawa Balewa again. What I'm trying to say, the practical approach to mobilizing people is that you have to get everyone involved. You do not expect the Nigerian army, police, DSS, to protect every Nigerian or every community. It is not going to work. In the US, if you visit someone in the house, you will be shocked that when the guy hears a police siren, he will just pull his drawer, bring out his gun and keep it. So one of my hosts did that, and I asked him, "Why are you putting gun here?" He said, "Well, if they are chasing someone and he enters my house, I'll shoot him first." And that is the layer we have to start thinking about.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining me in this broadcast. The Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Said Abubakar II, has accused the social media users of spreading false information, it's causing unrest and inciting the public. This has followed several criticism and condemnation from Nigerians who disagree with his position. That social media should not be considered as a terrorist organization because it promotes the liberty and freedom of expression by the people across the entire world, not just in Nigeria, and also enough of entertainment and other means of disseminating information to get to the grassroots who may not have access to conventional medias, and of course be carried along over what is happening within the society and the environs. This is the statement of the Sultan of Sokoto that have received several criticism. One of them is a human rights lawyer in the person of Malcolm have said that the statement of Sultan Abubakar II is a terrorist to the Nigeria Constitution and the liberty of expression of humanity, contrary to his position that it is causing unrest and inciting the public. The social media should not be considered as a negative tool, but it enhances the interaction even down to the remote regions that may not have access to television coverage and every other media or means of communication. So you could access updates and information that is happening around you, just as what is happening in just of recent. About a few days ago, the level of massacre was made public before the people, the public domain, because of the edge of social media. Otherwise, people wouldn't have known the extent of massacre and wanton destruction of life and properties that is going on. Social media is a tool and a medium that you use to disseminate informations and get people to understand what is happening. And this is quite very interesting. Now, this is what he... Just listen to this. Sultan, you are the terrorist to the Nigerian and the liberty and freedom of the people of Nigeria. You have never for once criticized your herdsmen terrorizing the whole of Nigeria. But here you are calling the social media a terrorist organization. This has been the expression of many Nigerians who also share in this pain and agony, that the conspiracy of silence on the part of the traditional ruler and the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sultan Abubakar II, has is worrisome and suspicious. He said, you have not condemned the dastard acts, the nefarious activities of the Fulani terrorists across Nigeria, unleashing mayhem, killing, manning, sacking communities, reoccupying the settlements and the ancestral homes of people. The Said Abubakar II has not come to condemn that even for once, or to criticize the activities of the herdsmen or the terrorists themselves, despite their nomenclatures, because they terrorize, they wreak havoc on indigenous people communities. It was gathered over 250 communities have been sacked, and their properties and lives of those people have been wasted, and the Fulani terrorists are occupying the same vicinity, and nobody is raising concern over what is happening. This is very disturbing development. Now, he went further to say, you are a terrorist to the democracy and your feudal days are numbered. Why are you pretending not to know that the cause of the genocide going on in the north is about land? Now, how can you say that the people responsible for the killings in the north, particularly Plateau, Benue, and Borno, are unknown? Now, he's putting it to him that as a prominent traditional ruler and the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, he should be aware of those using Islamic tenet of faith or propagating Islam by compulsion, forcing it on people, killing and grabbing land. Is all about land grabbing. The Fulanis want to settle in Nigeria and take Nigeria as their ancestral home. That unfortunately and sadly, the Sultan of Sokoto have not condemned the sacking of communities and the killing of including children and mothers in their own pool of blood. This is a very worrisome development and in fact cause for concern. Why should the Sultan of Sokoto, who I believe commands respect, commands influence in the northern part of the country, he would have stopped this menace, but unfortunately people are worried why the conspiracy of silence. Now coming to say that the social media is a terrorist organization, why those killing, manning, sacking communities are not being, of course, proscribed as terrorist organizations? This is a very worrisome development, and that have led so many doubts and suspicion on the parts of Nigerians, bordering on the sincerity and honesty of the position of the Sultan of Sokoto on matters that borders on national unity, security, and economic development. It is a very worrisome development, and as such, now how could social media be a terrorist organization? The world over, not just in Nigeria, people are using social media. It's a means of communication. People will no longer have access to like the DSS, the GoTV, where they can get informations, or the local channels has been greatly censored, and they are afraid to report certain happenings which has endangered most Nigerians, sensitizing the people on how to be conscious, security conscious of their environment, and to be acquainted with what is happening around them. It's quite unfortunate that this development is what we are seeing. I challenge the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Said Abubakar II, to show me anywhere he has or had condemned his fellow Fulani men for killing Nigerians of other ethnic nationalities, and I will show him a well in Sahara Desert. And I will show him a well in Sahara Desert. Now he challenged the Sultan of Sokoto, saying that, tell me anywhere you have condemned the nefarious and dastard activity of the Fulani killer herdsmen or terrorists. Nowhere you have condemned their actions. Does it mean that the life they are killing, the people they are sacking from their communities, are not human beings, or they don't want living at all? Or are they slaves, or are they condemned people? This is quite a very disturbing development. If the bandits, the criminal, ravaging, killing communities are not being designated as terrorist group, and you are now those exposing the criminality, the terrorist the acts of terrorism is being considered as a terrorist. Leveraging on technology and dissemination channels or medium of making information very closer to the people. You now consider them as terrorists. Perhaps they shouldn't have reported or revealed the secret and the atrocity that is going on. Perhaps his position might be to silence the people's voice, and people will not get to know and get acquainted with the reality of what is playing out within the society. You can see the number of killing, the massacre in Jos Plateau, Benue, Enugu, Anambra, and the rest of them. The activities of the Fulani terrorists, the kidnappers, those invaders, has gotten to the point that Nigerians have lost their patience and will no longer tolerate, of course, such excesses. And now, following the statement of the DSS boss, that Nigerians should rise up and defend themselves, that you shouldn't expect the military or the DSS to cover down to the remote communities. You know, they have access to attack and, of course, retire to their safe havens, destroying the main reason of the clash between Fulani and other ethnic nationalities is to grab land. They want to take over possession of people's land, ancestral homes, and reoccupy it, use it for grazing land. Now, the former governor of Kano State, Danguje, once said that the landmark of Kano State can accommodate the entire herders. Why not come and build their ranches rather than moving their cattle from one point to the other and constituting nuisance, killing, manning the host communities where they traverse, just in the bid to annihilate them and take over those ancestral lands for as a possession. This is highly condemnable and very disturbing, honestly. With what is going on in Plateau State, the leaders, Islamic leaders, should have shown concern, but unfortunately, both the Islamic leaders, religious traditional rulers, and the politicians from the north are not condemning this dastard act. Perhaps they may have some sympathy for those killing, and it is not justifiable. If we want to be honest and sincere and uphold integrity, we as humans should condemn every act of criminality or injustice against humanity, irrespective of who is involved. But that seems not to be the case as far as Nigeria is concerned. Some people are born to rule, while some others are born to be offered, of course, the altar of sacrifice. Their life does not matter as far as their interest and ambition will be projected. It's a very disturbing development and cause for concern that His Eminence, Sultan of Sokoto, will make such a section that is very disturbing and worrisome. Well, let's see how far that continues. Now, we'll also listen to the position of the DSS boss regarding what is happening, that you should take up arms and defend yourself. No longer wait for the military. Every community must sensitize themselves and get ready to defend themselves. Otherwise, they will be overrun and be wiped off. Let's have your own take as you watch this video.
With you when I was state director in Bauchi. Most of you remember an incident in Azari. A group of terrorists, the Boko Haram then, had invaded Azari. They were shooting in an attempt to kidnap, and the community chased them. They killed some members of the community, but the community members killed all of them. The last guy, Khalid, climbed onto a tree and was fired. The community stood. They were resilient and they killed Khalid. Since that day, there has not been one terrorist attack in Azari. As a matter of fact, the former head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, said, and I quote, "If we want to stop or curb this terrorism, we should emulate the Azari example." Tafawa Balewa also happened to be a local government in Bauchi that was always in flames. And the people of Bogoro and some part of Tafawa Balewa, where the Sayawas are, rose up on one occasion. They knew their terrain better, climbed onto trees and mountains when the invaders came. They did not only repel them, they seize their weapons. And since then, you can attest to it that you hardly hear about Tafawa Balewa again. What I'm trying to say, the practical approach to mobilizing people is that you have to get everyone involved. You do not expect the Nigerian army, police, DSS to protect every Nigerian or every community. It is not going to work. In the US, if you visit someone in the house, you will be shocked that when the guy hears a police siren, he will just pull his drawer, bring out his gun and keep it. So one of my hosts did that, and I asked him, why are you putting gun here? He said, well, if they are chasing someone and he enters my house, I'll shoot him first. And that is the layer we have to start thinking about.